Good morning. Thank you for coming to play with my mind today. My name is Gretchen Vogel. I've been a practicing medium, channeler, mystic for more than 4 decades. Today, we're going to continue our series on karma. We're going to talk about the dissolution of these energy patterns that we create within our mental body, physical body, spiritual body, um, with repetitive thoughts and beliefs. And we can dissolve the things that are bothersome to us. Now, there's many reasons to do this. One of them is we will have a much more conscious death if we do our introspective work before we transition. And the other reason to do it is it frees up more of our subconscious energy so we can have more joy, have more fun. But I wanted first to talk about how difficult this is. It really is hard to take an honest look at the things that we're not proud of in our life. And I know it was hard for me to look at some of them. I'm very much in process of doing this. That's why this video may seem to have been pretty delayed from the other ones, because I really wanted to have a lot of experience with this to share with you. Not that I'm in any way done with this. But I realized as I was working on it that I could not have done this earlier in my life because I really didn't have the self-love. I wasn't grounded in self-love. And of course, that could be considered a karmic pattern too, something to dissolve. But at this point in my life, I don't have the fear of what other people will think of me. I don't even worry about what I think of me. So just a mention that if even setting the intention of dissolving karmic patterns, which means that you have to look at things that you're not proud of in your life. If even that is disturbing to you, please don't go on with the work. You can set the intention, and I believe your higher self, your guides, and your angels will help you to only see what is, how can I put this, appropriate at the time to look at and to attempt to mitigate or dissolve. When I started to do this, it felt like the life review that I have heard the deceased speak of when they pass over. And they say that they see aspects of their life that both the good, the bad, the ugly. So things that are a little hard to swallow or deal with. But you have to remember, in the world of spirit, not only do we not have the endocrine system that's connected to our physical body, which makes everything a little more emotional for us, but we have a lot of loving assistance around us all the time to heal in the afterlife. Everybody knows their guides, knows their higher self, is with beloved ancestors. So to do it here in physical is a bit more challenging unless you're really grounded in self-love and perhaps a spiritual practice, because a spiritual practice of meditation or prayer evokes love in our hearts. And to bring forth love every day in a practice and pray for other people brings love to us. So, and again, I'm not representing myself as anybody morally superior to anybody else. And if you think I am, I will give you my sister's email and you can talk to her about that. Anyway, and I'm also not representing myself as a therapist or a psychologist. This is simply what I call practical spirituality, which is based in energy, because everything is energy. Okay, so let's get started with all those trigger warnings on a way that I approached this was with the Hawaiian prayer. And I'm not going to say it right. It's like, oh, ho, pono, 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 pono. It's in the comments below. There are 4 elements to this prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Now, I've seen a translation of them, not necessarily in that order, but that's basically what that prayer is. And so I said, well, that's a really good start. But I had to break it down for what I was going to be working on. Now, whether you believe Louise Hay is guiding me or not really doesn't matter to me, but she gave me a laundry list of things to work on. So that's the way it is in spirit. I mean, you can't hide anything, so you might as well heal before you get there, right? There'll be less to see. Anyway, I began with I love you with a horse that I had a tremendous amount of unresolved grief with. In fact, I couldn't even really think about her, not Lewis, who's featured in the earlier videos on karma. This was a little mare. Her name was Jorda, and I bred Connemara ponies for a little while. They're an Irish pony. Not that I'm Irish, but they're really great people, great little beings. And this particular little mare and I shared a lot mentally. For example, the day that I brought her to our farm from where she had been before, and I really don't know where she was born. She might have been born on that farm. She was standing looking back in that direction of where she had come from. And I went up that evening and she was standing stock still, and I just collapsed on the ground and started to sob. I could feel her sorrow. I learned later that she had never been separated from her 3-year-old daughter. And she was in deep grief over being separated. We don't think about this with animals. We don't think that we're tearing families apart when we move animals. Anyway, I sure didn't think about that. We had a lot of history, which I don't have time to go over now. But eventually, I did sell her. I thought it was a very good home in Virginia of a very big Connemara breeder with lots of room to roam and lots of other horses. And I thought this would be a great home for her. But the breeder was not really interested in her. The breeder was interested in the foal that she was carrying. And the breeder did not keep her and sold her on. And this is the part of the story that is really hard to deal with, because I lost touch with my precious Jorda. I had no idea where she went after that or what her life was like. And so as I started to visualize her in my mind's eye and use a mala, which I have here. Now, a mala is just a counting tool. You don't have to associate it with any particular religion. It's used by in the Vedic, the Buddhist, Catholics have a rosary, which is very similar as a counting device. You could use a beaded necklace as a counting device. They have little wrist malas. Actually, I have a bigger one on my wrist. This is my favorite one because it's easy for my hands to deal with. Anyway, so what I did, because I usually use a mala for mantra practice, and mantra can be something as simple as just repeating thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, or om. Om is, a lot of people just do om as a mantra. I used it to stop circular thoughts in my head, those really crazy thoughts in your head that you can't get rid of. Well, mantra is a great way of dealing with that. Just refocus. Anyway, so I used a mantra and I visualized the little mare in my mind in front of me. And I just kept saying, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Well, I cried for 2 hours. I obviously had a lot of grief to release. And as I was doing that, I'm sure that it changed to other phrases, like perhaps I'm sorry, perhaps, thank you. Again, the elements of that Hawaiian prayer are incredibly powerful. So that was my segue, so to speak, into working on the karmic patterns with this little mare. And then with my mother, now my mother and I, we were like on parallel train tracks and we just weren't going to meet. And I wanted to love her and maybe she wanted to love me, but there was a lot of wounding there. I was told that she put her karmic patterns into me. Probably because I was very sensitive and receptive and trying to fix everybody in my family. So I absorbed all kinds of things. But so I'm carrying some of my mother's karma in me. And that always kind of made me a little angry. I mean, so when I started with my mother, it was the please forgive me for my misunderstandings, my misconceptions, maybe even my sensitivity, that if she had a less sensitive youngest child, my sister's the oldest and she's not super sensitive, but anyway, yeah, you can tell we're like good buddies too, right? Maybe there's some karma there. Anyway, so with my mother, I just said, please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me. Now I know I've got a lot more work to do with my mother. This is just scratching the surface. Now, the I'm sorry one was the very first one I did. And I had to apologize to my body, my physical body. We take for granted these vehicles that carry us around in life. And so I was always extremely athletic. I could do whatever I wanted to. I could push myself unbelievably. Like if I was gardening or cutting wood. I mean, I've used a chainsaw many times. I have my own, and nobody else is allowed to use it. I'm small, but I was always very strong. And then rheumatoid arthritis entered my life. And I think it was the universe just saying, like, whoa, you have other things to do. So I'm not on any medication for rheumatoid arthritis now, and I'm doing fairly well with acupuncture and Chinese herbs, and not that I'm giving medical advice, please. I'm just saying I have a very, very strict diet. Hardly anybody would want to eat what I eat anyway. Um, but I'd really abused my body, with the horses. I mean, I remember one time when I was kicked in the forehead, and the pony wasn't kicking at me, but my forehead got in the way, and I was blinded for a while. And a voice came and said, "Well, you have a decision to make." And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to decide to see again." And my vision did clear, I obviously. So when I started, and again, my body was the first one I did of this dissolving karmic patterns. I'm sure, as I said, I'm sorry to my body. I thought of other things to be sorry for with my body. I almost wish I journaled it, because I would almost go into a trance-like state as I was doing this. I'm sorry I rode roughshod upon you. I'm sorry I was so hard on you. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you when you were tired. I'm sorry. Like, I know it changed as I worked through the work. Anyway, um, I hope my body has forgiven me. And maybe I'll have a few good years left, but I won't be mean to it anymore. I really won't. Now, I've kind of saved the best one for last, because this was the tricky bit, the really hard one for me. Louise Hay, again, with this laundry list of things that I needed to work on. The primary one was my ex-husband. I'm in my second marriage now. I had a very early marriage to an older man who had children, and I got stepchildren and step grandchildren out of the deal. So that was good. And the idea of visualizing my ex-husband in front of me and saying, "I love you, please forgive me. I'm sorry," that just didn't, I was not ready for that. So I thought, well, thank you. I wonder, when I left that marriage, it was like a bank vault. I mean, I closed it. I closed my mind on the memories. I would not allow myself to think about those 19 years again of my life, because it was so loaded for me. And I was interested in my current life, not my previous life. So I thought, well, thank you. Okay, well, there were some things that I could say thank you to him about. Now, we were back to the land homesteaders, and I wrote a very well-received book on gardening at the time. This first husband was incredibly creative. I mean, he was crazy good designer, amazing. Solar houses, furniture, heat assist devices for gardening, just lots of things. I mean, the guy was a genius. He wasn't particularly nice, and he didn't bring out the best in me, but he was incredibly creative, and he taught me how to be creative. Now, part of our living space was a geodesic dome. So I would meditate in the dome, and I have over 1,000 single space pages of transcripts from my downloads that I did while I was in that marriage. I don't understand all of them. I go back and I read through them, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty heavy stuff. My angels have told me, or spirit has told me, that simply for me to bring this information to the planet means it's here in the collective, that I really didn't have to teach, that I really didn't have to write on my work. I mean, I have written on my work, but and I'm not sure I'll do the next 2 books I'd like to do. We'll see how long I last. Anyway, so I did have things to thank him about, and that was as far as I could get. I'm not really ready to go any further, and this is what I really need to say. Please be kind to yourself. These things are really hard to look at. Basically, you know that there's karma where there's an action that you're not particularly proud of. So if you set the intention to dissolve your karma in this lifetime, I really believe that your higher self will only introduce you to the memories as you're ready to work with them. That's really the cautionary tale here. It's not like cleaning your house. Well, I mean, I guess it is like cleaning your house in a way, maybe cleaning a closet at a time in your house, but it's not like it's not something that we can just do and get it over with. I think it's a long process. And I don't think we really can know when it's over, except that when you look back, like at the little mare, I'm not as sad about her anymore. One of the things that I realized as I was doing this is what would happen in my heart. And I did achieve with each of the 4 things that I spoke to you about. As I was working through the mala, I did achieve a feeling of true remorse or true regret, which, if you knew how I compensated for my early life with pride and ego, which has been something that I've been working on for a very long time, you would know how difficult it is for me to get to true remorse because I've had to protect myself for so long with pride and ego. And of course, I had this like crazy mental ability, which everybody has to some extent. But I've got a lot of spiritual muscle because I've been doing this for a long time. Anyway, one of the ways that you can tell that your karma is dissolving is with the emotional connection to these patterns. You know, if you're feeling remorse, if you're feeling sadness, if you're feeling grief, if you're feeling regret, and these are not pleasant emotions to feel. So please go slowly, and we'll talk again soon about karma, which is I've just been having so much fun with this topic. Well, sometimes it's not that fun, but anyway, come back and see me soon. Please like and subscribe and share if you like my videos. My website is How Spirit Works. Thank you so much for coming.